All right, so I've been trying really hard to not get involved in this whole Ian Garry kind of drama situation. I just want this channel to just go over kind of like fun stuff. I don't really want to talk about things that everyone else is talking about. Especially the drama stuff. Like, I'd rather talk about matchups and just get more martial art based than it is. I do like drama, but like some of it's just getting like too much. But I also understand it is kind of fun, but I don't really want to, like, I'll get involved in it, like maybe on an anonymous account, but I don't want to like get involved in it, like making videos. Like, I don't want to sit here and make a whole thing about this guy's life and all this stuff. But I will say that his situation is just so bizarre. Honestly, I think that's the reason why it's gotten so big, and it just keeps expanding. Like, you have all these people, and they're like, that I've seen. They're like, why does everyone hate this guy? Like, what's wrong with him? Isn't he like he's friends with Connor, and he has this like exciting fighting style, and he seems like a positive dude. And it's like, dude, that's all surface level. Like, once you realize like what's going on in his life and all this stuff, then it gets pretty interesting because you tell people this stuff, like normie people that kind of like they don't even know who he is. They watch MMA or whatever. Um, and they're just perplexed by all the amount of stuff. And I think that's the situation here. It's mainly like, wow, this is a really bizarre situation. And the deeper you go, the worser it gets. And I think that's what happened in the MMA community. It was just like, well, first you find this out, and then you find this, and then you find that out, and it just keeps going deeper. And then, and then the situation's worse because he doesn't he doesn't like go and say, you know what, let me just go on my Twitter or Instagram, whatever. Let me just do a live stream and just end this. Like, okay, everyone's talking about this, and this. I'm gonna like basically give my takes on these things, and either you're on my side or you're not, and then it's over, right? Instead, he just disables, his comments. He says he won't deal with it at all. He'll just ignore everything. He'll just let his managers and people deal with social media. So he's just kind of running from his problems rather than confronting them. And unfortunately, you're seeing a lot of the journalists and these people, either they're cowards or they're being told by the UFC, hey, we don't want you asking certain questions. And if you do, you're basically going to get Ariel Hawani'd, right? You're not going to be allowed to ask questions. And this is why you get all these kind of like you get all these beta journalist guys because they're very afraid to ask anything edgy because they know if they do they might get clicks, but then they'll probably get kicked out. And so you're in this situation where they're not going to say anything. It's like they're asking everyone the same boring ass questions. Oh, how do you feel? And and who do you think will win in this matchup? And all these guys give you these boring questions because most fighters are boring guys. They don't think much beyond sleep, poop, and eat at Burger King or whatever it is. Unfortunately, this is the difference between like some unranked guy or even some top tens and like a superstar. The superstar guy actually has a personality and he's interesting and he does things right. It's like he's kind of like a WWE guy. He's gonna ramp up the fight. He's gonna say, I'm gonna do this and do that. But getting back to the situation, it's just like you go in there, you talk up a big game, and then you just win via jabs and running, and then people online are they're booing him, they're saying all this stuff, and he's just, oh, I just came here to win, I just came here to, and it's so funny that Dana White would back him up in the press conference, and I think in some ways, I think for you guys to have an eye for it, I think when Dana was saying, "Oh, this guy doesn't like your fight," and then he said, "This guy thinks your fight sucked," I think that was him talking. I think he was smart enough to know, "Hey, this guy said something. I'll say he said it, but in actuality, I actually believe this." But yeah, no way Dana's. There's no way he likes guys going in there and just winning via jabs. Like behind the scenes, he's talking to people and saying, "Hey, we need to get this guy beat. We need a Chimaev or or some sort of Marab, some unbeatable force in the division. We need to find a way to get that guy to fight him, and then just so we can get rid of him. We need to get this guy." I think the quote is, "We need to get this guy beat." I forget where that came from, but I would not be surprised if they say that all the time for boring fighters. Like, we need to get this guy beat so that we don't have to deal with him. Like, if this guy's if a boring guy is a champion, then that means the UFC isn't making any money, or they're making less than what they should, right? So it's in their interest to get certain guys beat, and it's in their interest for certain guys to win. And I think for you guys out there, you casuals, that's where corruption is. That's when people talk about, things happening behind the scenes. That's what they're talking about. They're talking about guys who could be getting injections, and certain doctors are looking the other way, like Brock Lesnar, probably Izzy, probably Marab. Some guys get caught because they probably did it on their own. Probably like TJ, he got caught doing something on his own. Maybe John Jones in a way too. I mean, obviously he's gotten caught a couple times, the whole pictogram thing, and you think, well, he's a superstar. How did he get caught? I mean, who knows? Who knows what's really going on? But yeah, I wouldn't. It is very interesting that Ian fought a very boring fight, and then Dana comes over and is kind of defending him. It seems like, but also at the same time, kind of backhanding him. So that was a interesting situation there. But the sad part about it is that Ian fought like the worst version of Jeff Neal. He just couldn't go, and then he had the easiest fight against Neil Magny. All you gotta do is chop him down. I mean, Neil's definitely dangerous, but he kind of is he's kind of a journeyman guy. I mean, of course he would lose that fight, right? And then so the problem is if Ian Garry gets what he wants and he fights Colby Covington, Colby looked like he just came out of he looked like he just came out of some old folks home, He really did. He looked stiff, he looked old, he couldn't really wrestle. He said he broke his foot, so he showed the x-ray, so he did break his foot. If his performance sucked because of the foot broken, that would suck for all of us, right? Because no matter how much you hate him, you want to see him go in there and do his best, because that's the entertainment aspect. If a guy goes in there and he has an injury and he can't perform, we all lose. But the problem is if it wasn't the foot, then he's going to go in there and possibly he's going to throw everything that we know against Ian, and then he's going to go and get beat up. And that's almost like symbolically, that's like all of us getting beat up against this guy who's taking care of someone else's kid, right? And it's like, oh my God, that would, I mean, think about it like that. Put yourself in those shoes, because if Colby really is old, if he really is washed up, he's going to go in there and he's going to get totally beat down by Ian. Because on paper, he should easily be able to defeat Ian. But the Colby that we have today is not the Colby that fought Usman the first time. He's not the guy who beat down RDS. He's no longer that guy that would just, he would just run in there and just, run through you, because he's got such great cardio and his wrestling is just that good. I mean, unfortunately, he isn't that guy anymore. I mean, there's a chance he could be. I mean, maybe he broke his foot in the first round, like he says, and he just couldn't go because he couldn't put any pressure on his foot. There's definitely evidence for that. But it could also be the ring rust. It could also be a lot of things. And Colby, again, he's that guy's a liar. So we don't really know when he's talking the truth and when he's playing a character. So who knows, right? He did show an x-ray, but that he could have broken his foot at any point in that fight. He could have been lying about it happening in the first. So unfortunately, we're in a situation where Ian could go in there and Colby's going to throw everything he has at him, and then he's going to throw all of his simp energy at Colby and potentially finish him. Potentially, literally doing what he said, he might be able to get rid of Colby Covington to a point where if he were to get dominated by Ian Garry like that, at that point he'll never see a championship belt again. He's already getting to a certain age. He's kind of in Volk's age group. So I wouldn't be surprised if he were to just, try to retire at that point. Like, that would be basically the end of his career. It's just, how is he going to retire? Is he going to finish? Is he going to fight one more and end on a good streak, or is he just going to retire right then and there? I mean, that would be the question if Ian Garry went in there and dominated him, or actually finished him. If he lost by decision, it would be bad, but I mean, in some ways that would be worse, because then you could argue he could continue to keep fighting. Oh, well, you didn't get finished, right? So it's like, you could keep fighting technically. So it would kind of keep him in a limbo. And then what would he do at that point? Then he said he wants another top 2 or 3 guy. That's where, if he runs through Colby, the opportunity for us is that there's a chance he may run into a wild Shafkat. He may run into... there's a lot of killers in that kind of top 5 area where, I wouldn't be surprised though if he got the Wonder Boy fight though. I wouldn't be surprised, and then that would be a tougher fight for him. But I still think he could win it. I don't know. Honestly, when you really think about it, Wonder Boy, when it comes to striking, and Ian said he would strike him, Wonder Boy is probably one of the best strikers like on the planet. Honestly, you put Wonder Boy in his prime. I mean, he beats most people in a pure striking fight. He's that good. So it is. In his prime, he would run through Ian Garry, no problem. No, it's not even a question. But now, I mean, it's not like he's aged all that much. But I mean, it is a fight. I could just see Ian somehow winning. But I don't know. He looked really bad in his Jeff Neal fight. He looked real bad. He was running. He didn't really land anything of consequence. I think most of the shots that people thought he won, like Joe Rogan, I think those were like knees that didn't land, but like according to the angle, they thought so. So if you actually look at the fight, it was just he didn't really do much. He was just kind of landing some shots and then circling and then circling and then circling and then getting ready to throw something and then circling. So that's the situation there. But I think all of us just want to see someone we want him to fight like a Shavkat, and then he could get finished, and then we don't really have to think about him anymore. Because even if he did become champion at that point, it wouldn't really matter. Because okay, you're no longer unbeatable though, right? You got that one on your record, and we finally got to see you get put in your place and all that. And the more he runs away from us on this stuff, the more we're gonna chase him. It's just, I think it's natural animalistic instincts, right? When something runs away from you, you have this instinct to want to chase it. And I think the more he runs away from us, the more we're gonna chase. And I'm just hoping that at some point there's some sort of matchup, because he said what he wants to do. He wants to fight Colby, and he's probably gonna win that fight. And then after that, he wants to fight a top 2 or 3 guy. Which, I mean, if Bilal fights Leon, then we'll see what happens with that. And then we have Shavkat right behind it. So if he wants a top 3 guy, I mean, essentially it would have to be Shavkat. But Shavkat did win his last fight, but it was against Neal, and Neal's a little bit higher up in the rankings. So essentially what he's saying is he would probably fight Colby, and then right after he'd probably go after Shavkat. Because, we have most likely it's going to be Bilal versus Leon, or it's going to be someone else versus Leon, but it's not going to be Shavkat. So I think at that point, there's a chance that we could get Shavkat versus Ian Garry, which I think is the absolute best matchup. That's what everyone wants to see. If you're in the comments and that's what you want to see, definitely type it in there. That if that's what you want to see, someone type it and then like it if that's what you want to see. I think that's what we all want to see. I think Dana needs to know that is the matchup that everyone wants to see. And if it doesn't happen, as people are saying online, we need to oil them up. Man, I love all that weird stuff. But yeah, that's the whole situation there with the whole Ian Garry. I don't want to get too deep in it. I just want to talk matchups and stuff. And if it does happen, I'm definitely going to make a video on how I think it's going to go. Because, it's so fun to just kind of think like, all right, let's put this guy and he's fighting this guy. And then let's go over the details on how it's going to go. And, man, definitely would be fun. But yeah, you're not going to see me make videos talking about the details and, his wife did this and all this. I don't want to get too involved in that. It's just, I don't know. It's just not my thing. Other people are doing it. Go watch their content. They're all great. But yeah, I guess I'll see you on the next one.